became a career firefighter with the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Service, the chief of the medical division, or EMS, the unofficial historian of the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Services. Over 65,000 digital images and newspaper articles, magazine articles, etc. Episode 24-12. This episode is a few more close calls that were encountered by personnel from the Howard County Department of Fire and Rescue Services. The first one that we'll show was an incident that happened on October 23rd, 2013. This incident involved a shooting on Route 1. Howard County Police at CarMax on Route 1 south of Savage had encountered a subject who was acting irrational and suspicious, and was chased into Route 1, at which point gunfire ensued and shots were exchanged. The bad guy was wounded, but even more critically, the Howard County police officer in the middle of Route 1 was shot and significantly injured. Ironically, as this was going on, Medic 65 out of Savage was returning from Greater Laurel Beltsville Hospital, returning to their fire station, and actually drove through the incident, not knowing what was going on, drove through where the gunfire had just occurred. The bad guy, as they drove through, jumped on the running board of the ambulance on the passenger side, brandishing a gun, and I'm assuming ordered them to stop or do something. Fortunately, the driver of the ambulance said, "No, I'm not," and gunned it, getting away from the scene. The bad guy jumped off the running board, but fired at least one round at the ambulance, and as you can see on this particular shot, struck the rear diamond plate of the ambulance just below the rear doors. The ambulance retreated to a safe location, which was at the top of the hill, stopped, turned around, looked at what was going on, and then immediately returned back to the scene to render care to the injured officer. The injured officer was transported and taken to shock trauma, receiving life-saving treatment by the crew of Medic 65. And in fact, they were awarded honorable mention or silver award for their heroism on that particular day. Gunfire with a round striking the rear of the ambulance. So things could have been much, much, much different. The next incident that I'd like to talk about will be Ambulance 15 out of the Elk Ridge Station was on a response on Route 1 near Meadow Ridge Road or thereabouts. A tractor trailer came across the road, and the ambulance, as you can see, struck the tractor trailer, went up underneath a portion of the tractor trailer on the driver's side. The driver was pinned for approximately 20 minutes to maybe 30 minutes before he could be extricated and removed and taken to shock trauma. The gentleman driving the ambulance was very lucky. Had he gone a couple of feet further or inches further, other than just having a broken leg, could have had very, very serious injuries or even lost his life. And this happened back in 2015 on Route 1 in Elk Ridge. The last incident that we'll discuss today occurred in Lisbon back in the 80s, late 80s, I do believe it was. It was a barn fire that had occurred off of Daisy Road. It was a farm that had multiple farm buildings. The particular building that was on fire was a maintenance shed surrounded by other, what we call exposures, in other words, nearby structures, barns, etc. And what you'll see in the video will be Station 4, Lisbon, arriving on the scene. What you'll be observing is that as they're arriving on the scene, they're laying a supply line so that they can receive water to fight the fire. You'll also see the firefighters getting off the apparatus, hooking up hoses. You see firefighters donning their breathing apparatus, getting suited up to go fight the fire. Really no one, as you're looking at the video, no one is really in a panic. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They're following orders. They're following their training. They are getting ready to methodically address this fire that you can see in the background. And just as they're getting ready to approach the fire with a fire hose, well, I'll let you see the video.
Contact Okay, we ought to have something a little bigger. We got population fire. 5, 10, 8, 9, no 10. I'm still coming up negative on the 20 for that tag. Step forward, 4, 4, 3, 1, 2, 5, 8, 6, 6, 3, 5, 6.
Williams at 465-8892, 465-8892.
Surprised everybody. The bottom line is that had another 15 seconds gone by, that those firefighters may very well have been standing right in front of the door where the explosion occurred. And we would not be talking about this incident as a non-incident because no one really knew at that time that there had been an explosion. No one really knew that there could have been serious injuries. It wasn't until I showed the video to the fire personnel later on that evening that they even knew there had been an explosion. And this is just yet another incident that I've talked about, that each of these individuals were allowed to go home that evening, not because they followed order, not because of the protective equipment that they were on, not because of the excellent training that they had. The reason that they were able to go home that particular evening was because of luck. Please use your remaining heartbeats wisely and not waste a single precious one.